Hey gamers, this is Kita, and today we have a very special playthrough of Majora's Mask. All fairy rewards, no human in dungeons. So, what does that mean? Okay, so there's already an existing speedrun category called All Fairy Rewards, which does exactly as you would expect. It gets every fairy reward, which includes magic, Great Fairy's Mask, Great Spin, Double Magic, Double Defense, and Great Fairy Sword. And you have to beat the game. That's an important detail. Now, for the no human in dungeons part, that's the entire main goal of the challenge, like the main difficult part. The thing that makes this interesting. Now, the main motivation behind this is that to get the fairy rewards, you have to collect all 15 fairies in each of the dungeons. Now, not being able to be human actually limits us in a lot of ways that's may not even be immediately obvious. And that's why I'm here. Mainly I just want to make the run more easily understandable, and so that you can follow what's going on, and even understand some of the difficulties that this run has to overcome that's not even immediately obvious. So real quick, I can just briefly explain why not being able to be human is so important, and of course we'll touch on it as it comes up. But the human form of the game, which I guess it's important to mention that there's the Deku Mask, Goron Mask, and Zora Mask. Those are the three transformations that I'm only allowed to be at any point, at any given time in a dungeon. So the human form, pretty much every item is limited to human access. So stuff like the bow, fire arrows, ice arrows, light arrows, hookshot, all of that stuff. Actually, yeah, bombs, bomb chews, any of the non-transformation masks. You can't use a blast mask, you can't use a Great Fairy's Mask, which that's going to be a problem, because what do you do about the fairies that are really far away that you put on the mask and then they come to you? Basically, yeah, that's just the food for thought. I don't want to get too deep into it right now without the proper context being on screen, but yeah, as things come up, I'll explain what's happening. The intro is a good time to get some of the more basic stuff out of the way. So speaking of which, we're about to gain control right now. This is actually the perfect time to explain what a LOTAD is. LOTAD stands for Low Optimized Tool Assisted Demonstration, and hopefully that's pretty self-explanatory, because basically what I'm doing is I'm using all the features of a tool-assisted speedrun. This is definitely not a speedrun, this is a demonstration, just proving that this concept is possible, that you can beat the game. So I'm taking that idea, slowdowns, frame advance, re-records, using all of that, but without optimizing it. I'm not playing perfectly. In fact, I'm playing with a controller. Pretty much everything you're gonna see on screen, 99% of the run, I'm just holding the controller, and then I'm just loading the save state until I get it in a acceptable format. So yeah, this entire run, this wasn't played on console or anything, it was played on BizHawk emulator, which, that doesn't mean this isn't doable on console. This is actually completely doable on console. I wouldn't say a human is capable of doing this challenge. Feel free to prove me wrong, but that's why this is in LOTAD format, so to say. And another nice feature of being able to use an emulator is that I was able to use a ton of scripts to just make my life easier when making this. Basically stuff like, well, I don't want to spoil it, but for a lot of the difficult things that you have to be frame perfect for, you can automate it. So I wrote several scripts. I actually got someone else to write a script for me that helped a lot. That script being like to tell you how much time is remaining on a bomb, but we're not gonna get into that. Though I guess that kind of leads directly into like who the intended audience is. I don't know why I waited over 5 minutes to get to this part, but you'll have to excuse my commentary. I've always been not great at that with the bad mic and all that, but hopefully as the run goes on, I'll find my way, as Drake Bell would. Ignore all that. Intended audience. I'm assuming that if you're watching this, you've seen a Majora's Mask speedrun before. Because I'm not gonna go over like basic tricks that would normally be in like any speedrun from like, I don't know, from the year 2006 to now. Like if you've seen a speedrun during that era, you should be completely fine to watch this. And I would also say that the more background knowledge you have of Majora's Mask speedrunning, the more enjoyment you'll be able to get out of this, because having that knowledge, you'll be able to appreciate some of the nuances of this run, but it's not necessary. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, I'm going to assume that you have seen a speedrun, and if that's true, you already know that this intro is the same exact thing every time. There's really not much I can do about that. I did do something different. Something noticeably different that, well, we'll get to that. But yeah, there's a slight change. This isn't your dad's first cycle. This is my first cycle. But basically because if you've seen first cycle, you've already seen this part. I just want to like use this time to explain stuff and get this out of the way. But like after first cycle, then I can start explaining what's happening on screen. Psych, I'm about to explain right now. First trick of the run. So I used a pause buffering script to automatically pause buffer because I'm really bad at that. I used to speedrun. I'm not a very good speedrunner, but there's this loading trigger in front of these double doors here that start once you gain control, and you'll find that a common theme is that you can delay a cutscene starting by pausing, and you still have one frame to be able to do something. And now I can reset after that. Like, that was the first frame that I was able to reset, because it saves the game there. So you could skip a small little cutscene and start back in clock time without having watched that. So 2 tricks right off the bat. I'm sure most of you already knew that, but it's good to explain stuff. Also, I really want to say that this run was a community effort. I know that was a little disjointed from what I was talking about before, but we're back to the boring stuff. You don't need me to explain this stuff. You've seen this before. Grandma's stories, you know about them. But yeah, as I was saying, this run was a community effort, whether or not people even knew that it was. Because the entire time I was making this, I had like this cycle of people that I talked to on Discord, because I didn't want to bother like the same person over and over, because like I would just always be asking them questions, being like, oh, what do I do? So I guess each of those people have only a little bit of context. No one ever really saw the entire route. I kept this project mostly to myself, but I did have a lot of help from others, and I'll properly shout them out like as it comes up, and especially at the end of the run, I'll give everyone the proper shoutouts, because thank you guys for making this possible. Other introductory stuff to talk about. February 21st. Now, a lot of you are probably in the dark on like, what is the deal with February 21st? So I figured this is a perfect time for a little history lesson. I won't get too off the rails, but let me explain the significance of February 21st. So, 3 years ago, on February 21st, 2015, I uploaded 2 paws to YouTube, beating Majora's Mask in 2 pauses. And I would say that this run is actually the spiritual successor to that, because that was actually the last Lotad that I did myself. I did commentary myself, and just, it was a solo project. Now, the reason February 21st is significant is because my friends Venik and Kafta worked on Ocarina of Time 100% in 3 pauses, and it just so happened, this was completely coincidental. In fact, I didn't even notice until like way later, but the commentated version, which I helped with commentary on that, helped, quote unquote, I might have made it worse, but that was uploaded February 21st, 2016. And as soon as I noticed that, the rest was history. Because then I was like, okay, we have to make this a tradition. Commentated Zelda Lotad every year on February 21st. And I made this big push to make it happen. So last year, 2017, thankfully Nerds with Game helped me out a lot. I'm very grateful for that. He worked really hard on Ocarina of Time Reverse Boss Order. And that leads us to this year, February 21st, 2018. Okay, that's enough history. Let me briefly explain what's happening on screen. Alright, so it might look like I'm being unoptimal, which I am. At any given point, I'm being unoptimal. Let's just get that out of the way. But it might look like I'm being super unoptimal, and I am. Here's why. So the entire idea of First Cycle is that we want to just waste time. Well, that was worded terribly. The entire idea of First Cycle is that you want to get to midnight on the final day as soon as possible. So what you do is you do Grandma Stories the 3rd day, and then you make a night with the Scarecrow, and then you just wait. You just have all this waiting time. Because, like, yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do, which is like, oh, I gotta get the Stray Fairy, get magic. So you do that stuff, but then you're just waiting around. So I don't have to care about movement at all. I could just pretty much walk the whole way. I was able to go a slightly different way for the rupee bushes because I have save states. I could just get good rupee luck. This just in, speedrun tidbit. Speedrun tidbit of the day. Speedrun factoid. By entering North Clocktown through Termina Field, you actually get to skip that little introductory cutscene for North Clocktown. That doesn't affect us here because I need to get the Great Fairy's Mask, which you get in North Clocktown, so I have to watch that cutscene anyway. But because I needed rupees, I went through and entered through Termina anyway. That was just a small little knowledge bomb. I'm not expecting to blow anyone's minds here. I just need to fill that void with knowledge. What better way than knowledge? Alright, now those familiar with First Cycle, first of all, one, my condolences. But secondly, now is when your mind is about to be blown. Even though I just said I'm not expecting to blow any minds. But you thought I was gonna deposit those rupees? Think again. So, important concept of the run, which I'll just say again, is that transformations cannot use bombs or bomb shoes. So even though I'm buying these right now, I can't use them as Deku. Only human form can use them. Which raises the very understandable question, why did I buy them? Why didn't I just put the money in the bank? We're talking smart investment here, like, that money in the bank, that would have been so useful. Whoa, where am I going? Now this is the play around that I signed up for when watching a tool-assisted run. Sign me up. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, we make it. We did all our dailies, and now we're at this cutscene, and we could just go up to the clock tower. We're done with first cycle. Thankfully, we can move on to the run. Well, you know there's some cutscenes left, but I mean we're done with the waiting section. Okay. Also, I kind of forgot to mention this, but even though the focus of this run is pretty much entirely dungeons, like, that's what you want to see is the dungeons. I wound up making the route really interesting and different in terms of, like, everything outside. Like, my goal for this run was just to make something interesting, a glitch exhibition, just something that's entertaining to watch, something that no matter what your level of knowledge of Majora's Mask is, you're gonna learn something new, and it's not just gonna be your standard route. So actually, even though like all this first cycle stuff is happening, as soon as that's over, as soon as I get Song of Healing, everything you know about like what you should be doing once you turn human just goes out the window. Like, we're just gonna switch it up. We're gonna go off the rails. We're not afraid to get different. We're not afraid to get a little weird. And speaking of different, yeah, that was the best segue I could come up with. Two Paws, that was like something where like everything you were doing was because you had to, pretty much, more or less, like, you were just solving something in the way that you had to. Whereas with all fairy rewards, no human in dungeons, there's actually more than one way to do a lot of things. I had a lot of creative freedom when it came to choosing the way I wanted to do things. Especially outside of dungeons, I could just decide how I wanted to go. And I'm not saying that's better or worse, just different. And I think that it really illustrates the beauty of this game. To me, everything I do in Majora's Mask is just out of pure love of the game. I see the game as like some sort of problem space, or like, because I played the game for so many years, I feel like I've been able to just kind of dig in there and learn things on my own, kind of like discover stuff, and that's the rewarding part to me, is just being able to like figure stuff out. So there being more than one way to do something isn't a deterrent in any way. Like, it just means like I get more knowledge, I get to solve things in different ways. I really don't know what the point I'm getting at is. I don't know if anyone could relate to that or anything, but we got time to kill, so I'm not even gonna bother cutting that out. You get to keep that. But yeah, if you'll notice, I did equip both Bomb and Bomb Shoes during that. And once you do Song of Time, very important note, selecting yes to Song of Time will delete all of your temporary ammo. So like, my bomb count and bomb shoes, even though I had like 20 each of them, it sets them all to 0, and that's a really important concept. So even though I pause them, I can't use them until I like get more of them. That's why it seems kind of pointless to do that, and that's why speedrunners don't equip them during first cycle. Like, it's just better to put money in the bank to use, because then you have to go to West Clocktown anyway if you want to buy that stuff. So then, why did I equip it? When you buy bombs, if you don't have the bomb bag, you can't pick up bomb drops. You need the bomb bag, and that's why the very first time you enter the bomb shop, you actually do buy the bomb bag for 50 rupees. So having that was the important part to me. I wanted that. Not saving the pause. Even though yes, it does save a pause. I don't have the pause to equip them. You'll see why in a little bit if this cutscene ever ends. But yeah, as I said, right out of the gate, once all this first cycle stuff is over, we're just gonna break all the rules. I'm not gonna go. You think I'm gonna go to West Clocktown and buy bombs and shoes? In your dreams. In your dreams. Like I would ever do that. Well, I would, but I'm not doing that this run. Forget it. This cutscene's still going. Majora's Mask tidbit alert. This cutscene has a text box only visible in the English version of the game. Why do I bring that up? Because there's an English version and there's a Japanese version of the game. The records show there are several other versions of the game. I don't care about any of them. But basically, this run... Basically, there's differences between English and Japanese. And this is only possible on the English version of the game. You want to do all fairy rewards, no human in dungeons on the Japanese version? Well, too bad, you can't. Or can you? No, you can't. So even though there's several differences, the big difference that restricts this only to the English version of the game is that from the switch from Japanese to English, they added the ability to save at owl statues. That, single-handedly, is the reason that this is possible. And you'll see why when it comes up. And we're finally done with first cycle stuff after this conversation with Tattle. No, it's okay, Tattle. Go ahead, I'll wait. Alright, we're off. Finally. Hello to everyone that skipped ahead in the video to get to this point. You know who you are. And I can't blame you. But right off the bat, we're gonna just get right in there and switch things up. Now, the idea for this segment is pretty much thanks entirely to Glitches and Stuff, who gave me this brilliant idea for how to start off the run. Small note, the reason I was able to get that blue ruby from the box twice is because I collected it right after I played Song of Double Time, otherwise that wouldn't have worked. So I wanted to get Bremen Mask, not because it's just a super convenient mask to use, but I actually need a property of that mask, so you'll see when that comes up. Now, after all that build up, it's time to finally let the cat out of the bag. The reason I got the bomb bag during first cycle was so that I can play Honey and Darling minigame right away. Wait, what was that? There's a very recent trick called Equip Swap that allowed me to equip the Bremen Mask over the Deku Mask right there. Having the pause cursor over the Bremen Mask, then swapping menus, I have one frame where the cursor remembers its previous position, and I equip Bremen over the Deku slot. It'll come up again, so I'll elaborate later. Now that Bremen is over Deku slot, I can pause again to move the Deku Mask over the Bremen Mask on C, so that my wearable mask changes and allows me to switch to Deku, which is normally impossible in this minigame. This gives me bomb shoes on B as Deku, and now I can end the game while climbing the ledge. The significance of that is that it makes my B button blank, and when a transformation has a blank B button, something known as Weird B occurs. To simplify the trick, Weird B basically means when your B button is blank as a transformation, the item you use when you press B corresponds to the word on your B button. So right now you see the word shoot. If I were to press B right now as Deku, I'd pull out the title deed. Take my word on that. Because I don't actually do it in the run. I got bigger plans. Long story short, each action word that appears on the A or B button has a value associated with it, and each item has a value too. Weird B takes the action word value and uses the item with that value instead. If you needed that info to sink in, too bad, we're about to put it in practice right now. This grotto is actually really convenient because it lets me get bomb drops, a bomb chew, a Deku stick, and Deku nuts. Okay, so now I'm gonna equip the Bremen Mask and the Deku stick. So, Bremen Mask, that important property, it has the word March on B. Deku stick lets me delay that for 1 frame, meaning when I switch to Deku Mask, I can press B and have it use the March value, which is fish, so I get to drop a fish. With fish gone, I have bottle on B. I equip Deku Nut and throw it so I can dupe a bottle over that nut slot using ESS. I'll explain ESS in a little more detail really soon. Now I'm going to pick up another Deku Nut, which will put the Deku Nut back in this slot, but I'll have the bottle still on C, even though the bottle's nowhere in my pause menu anymore. And I'll explain why I did that really soon, so stay tuned. Yeah, so all of that crazy stuff that just happened, that was for me to get a bottle. Now I have a bottle. I don't have to do all that witch stuff. We're done with that. Alright, so very briefly, this movement technique that I'm doing, I'm going backwards at really high speeds. That's known as a Hess, which also uses ESS position, and I promise I will touch on that soon. Okay, I really don't want to overwhelm you guys, but that just so happened that there was a lot of stuff happening at once. So we can take a small little breather. So yeah, I'm actually getting the Moon's Tear. Pretty much every run actually skips this thing, but this has a lot of value to us simply because of where it's located on the pause screen. And I'll get to that. So add that to your list of things that I'm gonna get to, because like that list is growing out of control, unfortunately. But I'm gonna get to all that stuff that I said I'm gonna get to. Okay, part of the prerequisites is that you know what a hover is, so I can safely skip over that. Now, here's why I got the extra Deku Nut. When I enter a flower, the B button switches to Deku Nut, so that's going to overwrite my bottle, meaning I no longer have Weird B or Bottle on B or anything like that. I can shoot Bubbles as Deku again, and that's really important. Okay, now I'll touch a little bit on ESS, like I keep saying I will. So the whole idea with ESS position is that you're very slightly turning the control stick, so that Link does that little shuffle animation with his feet. And the idea of that is that you don't lose speed. That little animation prevents you from losing your speed on the ground, because normally you lose it at a very rapid rate. And what you just witnessed there was a throwback to the classic speedruns. The good old days. Speedruns your dad used to watch. Just hover and super slide. You want to know what a super slide is? Too bad, I'm not telling you. Okay, so nothing weird is happening now. Finally, I can breathe. This is a fun little time to mention that I made an ESS script. Because like normally getting ESS position is kind of tricky, like on an actual physical controller. So I made a script where I can use the C-stick on my GameCube controller to switch between ESS left and ESS right. That's how you switch directions during a Hess. So that was fun. I could Hess like the pros in real time. Now, here's a trick I found while literally making this. So on the English version, you can push Mikau, whatever, to shore with the A button. On land, you can press A to grab him, and if you're able to drop him in just the right spot, you can shorten this walk animation. So normally he like walks longer than King Zora. This man takes his good old time. But I was able to save like 11 seconds or something like that. And that wasn't optimal by any means. That's just the rule. Nothing I do is optimal. I'm not a TASer. Okay, so we're actually mostly caught up on all the weird stuff happening. I'm not gonna overwhelm you, so let's just a speedrunner tidbit, or most speedrunners, they just do their own wacky, crazy things during this cutscene. So I'm not gonna do anything weird like that, but you know, When was the last time you just got to sit back and watch this cutscene uninterrupted? Not right now, that's for sure, but I'll let you watch the rest of it. Okay, I'm back. I'm really cold because I turned off my heater to record commentary. So I'm wearing my winter jacket right now. Anyway, yeah, got the Zora mask. Let's roll. Watch out, guys, there's a speed tidbit alert. The very first time you wear a transformation mask, there's a small cutscene, and that can be skipped by just wearing it as a different transformation. So I got to skip that. Nice Hess off the lever. But what's this? It turns out that you can keep your speed in the water with carefully timed B button presses. My super swims in this Lotet start off weak, but they'll improve over time. Meaning, yes, there's more where that came from. Now, let's talk context-wise. Why am I here? Or, actually, let's even dial it back slightly before that. Like, what am I missing that most playthroughs would have at this point? Song of Soaring. Anyway, that's just food for thought. But what's this? This is just driving home the idea that, yeah, ESS position keeps your speed. So, for a little more context, what I'm doing is the egg quest, which used to be like this huge ordeal, but it's actually not that bad anymore, as you'll see in a little bit. Mostly, I just want the hook shot, since I'm definitely gonna need that. Now, if you had been keeping up with speedruns at some point, you might have seen that when they got the hookshot, they went directly in the hookshot room. They were able to just like roll past the guard, long jump onto the tank, stuff like that. That's not possible in the English version because the guards are super sentient. Oh, that wasn't the words I was going for, but like that's what came to my mind. I just went with that. I just rolled with that. Here's why I needed the Deku shooter, by the way. It all comes back. Like, because I'm on English, I need the Deku shooter because this is the only way to get the hook shot here. So when it comes to interacting with hives, the only way to make the hive drop is with a bow, like an arrow shot, which I don't have bow or Deku bubble. Everything else would just explode the hive, and that won't make the pirates go away. And since the pirates are all-seeing on English, and you can't enter the room unless you have Stone Mask, which I also don't have, you need to get rid of them. So that's why I got bubbles. Moral of the story? If you're a grown adult, get caught blowing bubbles, just use the same excuse I did. Be like, bro, I'm on the English version. Gotta get rid of those pesky pirates somehow. Now, you might be wondering, why am I here before having the bow? I mean, clearly that would make a lot more sense, because then I could, even if I had the bow, I could like at least skip that cutscene where the pirate's talking. And to that, I say, valid question. I'm a strong believer in no spoilers. But I just want to get you guys thinking of like motivations for why I'm doing things in a certain order. Like maybe I want the hookshot before having the bow for some reason. Like that's just something to keep in mind. And watch the run as it unfolds. Okay, I got what I came here for, but I've been eyeing that egg, so let's just grab that real quick. Speedrun tidbit alert. If you press A right as you surface, you get to grab that ledge a little faster. So if you're at a party trying to impress your friends, be like, hey, watch this. Just pull that trick off, you're good to go. Again, I don't have Song of Soaring, so you just get caught by the guards. No big deal. About to do that again. Watch. Watch. Called it! Boom! Alright, so I'm gonna do another super swim just by keeping the speed at which I recoil off that wall. Like, generally, to get a super swim, you just want to get speed and then maintain it. It's not that complicated, actually, once you understand the concept. So this may be surprising to some of you, probably not others, but I'm going to enter here. This is where you deposit 7 eggs and get the New Eve Bossa Nova. I'm just going to get it right now, even though I only have 1 egg. And I'm going to use a Quiff Swap to do that. So now is the perfect time for me to finally explain this trick without being rushed. So first, let me say why I'm able to use the egg multiple times. The fundamental theory of a Quiff Swap is that you can use one item over another item's slot. In this specific case, I'm equipping the egg I have in the Deku Nut slot while using the Moon's Tear slot instead. Meaning, when I dump the egg into the tank, an empty bottle is written over the Moon's Tear slot instead of Deku Nuts. So I still have an egg there, and I can repeat the process. This perfectly leads into why I got Moon's Tear to begin with. In order to Quiff Swap that egg over another item slot, I need to do it over an item on the same screen, in the top or bottom row, such that a diagonal direction would put my cursor there. If the item's in any other location, you can't equip it fast enough. So without Moon's Tear, my only option with my current screen would be Ocarina, which is so useful that it would waste more time than the short detour that Moon's Tear took me. Now, the astute viewer might remember that earlier I said that I had a Deku Nut in the Deku Nut slot, but a bottle on my C buttons. So what happened with that is that once I caught the egg, that wrote egg back over Deku Nuts. Now, there's a little something for everybody in this run. Speedrunners, you might be feeling a little left out, like, bro, I know what a super slide is, I know what a Hess is. I do these things every day, I do them in real life. Don't worry. You see, speedrunners skip this cutscene. I don't have a way to skip this, so we're just gonna watch. So you get to see a brand new cutscene. And if anyone's feeling a little antsy, like, the title promised all fair rewards, no human in dungeons. So I want to see some dungeons. I'm the same way. The dungeons, that's the best part of the run. If you're enjoying the run so far, that's great, because we didn't even get to the good part. This is all filler content. This is all the filler arc. But yeah, don't worry. We're gonna be entering a dungeon really soon, so good stuff coming up. Also, I'm not wearing the winter jacket anymore. That thing was too loud for its own good. The perils I put myself through to inform, if that's what we want to call it. Another forward ESS there. People do that in real time. Don't applaud. Ooh. Didn't super swim off that lever. This is a low tat after all. Not optimized. Nothing is optimized. Okay, so basically as a recap, we just turned human, and the first thing we're doing is just going inside Great Bay Temple. Like, we're not wasting any time, we're just going. And right now I'm just gonna skip the cutscene. The pause buffering thing, same concept applies as at the beginning of the run, just delay the cutscene starting and then enter the loading zone to skip it. Okay, this might be a surprise, but we're actually gonna enter Zora Hall a few more times. not just one and done, but so there's a lesser known cutscene skip. The very first time you enter Great Bay Temple, there's like this cutscene of pirates going into a whirlwind or something. I don't really remember. But we can skip that using bottled time stop. What's that? With a bottled item in your hand, you can stop time, which lets you delay cutscenes until you exit the quote-unquote bottled time stop state. It comes at the cost of not being able to use B or C buttons though, but you can exit using C up, as you can see there. With this approach, you can store the aforementioned cutscene, then exit time stop to start the cutscene, but pause buffer to the loading zone to prevent it from playing, which clears out the cutscene. If that seemed like a lot of pause buffers, it's because I'm not good. Now, we can enter Great Bay Temple. But not as human. Absolutely not human. Thankfully, there's a small spot on the turtle that you can land on without activating, like, going to Great Bay. So I can turn Zora, and we don't have to break literally the only rule that we have in place. Okay, we're in a dungeon. It is absolutely imperative that under no circumstances do we ever become human inside a dungeon. And there's a lot to accomplish in here. I have to get all 15 fairies. Every dungeon has 15 fairies. And I also have to beat every dungeon because I have to beat the game. And you can't skip dungeons. Maybe next February 21st you could, but right now there's no way to do that. Here's a cool little time saver that's not very well known. It lets me skip pushing that turn key for the water jet, and small spoiler, but I'm not going to push a single turn key for this entire run. Now, ordinarily the current is stronger than your swimming speed, so you normally have to change swimming direction to get through this green tunnel that I'm going through right now. However, super swim speed is faster than that, so I can beat the current. But basically, nothing crazy. I mean, this small key that I'm getting, I could have just went the normal way. I'm just being quick, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. But that small key can only mean one thing. So, for those that don't know, there's only one key in Great Bay Temple. And unless you're an avid key collector, if you get that key, it means you're about to fight Wart. And it looks like I'm about to fight Wart with 3 hearts and only Zora and Biku Mask available to me. And when I say only those 2 masks, I mean it, because I can't use items. Zora and Biku don't have, they don't have the ability to use hookshot or bombs or anything. So I really just have to do this fight as these forms, and it really shows how limiting it is. Like, human just has all the power in this game. There is a small shortcut though. With the boomerangs, I can hit the eye without clearing out the bubbles first. But the boomerangs are very weak, and shooting the boomerangs still makes the bubbles drop. Meaning this actually was, even though I had like save states and stuff, this actually was a difficult fight to do. This fight is something for sure. I got hearts, I'm weak. Yeah, look at all of these bubbles and all this lag. So I was able to use a Zora jump slash there, it's twice as powerful as the boomerang. So by doing 2 of them, I got to hit him 2 less times than normal and clean him off. Yeah, all those buffles were because he wanted to get rid of those pesky pirates, by the way. Anyway, ice arrows. Why am I getting these? Why did I get ice arrows? What am I doing? I know one of you, at least one of you, has that document that I said, write down everything that I'm gonna get back to. I'll get back to that. Because ice arrows are needed for exactly one thing. There is just one thing. Actually, arguably 2. There might be, whatever. But they're needed. And by the way, that Song of Time was actually the only way that I was going to be able to get out of that dungeon. Because in order to leave, you need to get on the turtle's back. I promise there's not a way that I could have done that unless I fought the boss then and there. Which I also didn't want to do that because I need to fight him later. So, not happening. Okay, now we're doing the standard stuff. Yeah, I was cool for a little bit. I was a cool kid, not being like everyone else, getting like, oh, I'm about to get East Clocktown rupees, I'm about to buy explosives. I was too good for that. But look who came crawling back. Look at what I'm doing. Look how basic this is. Disgusting. The expectation you probably had going into this run was a glitch exhibition, as that's what I said at the beginning of the video somewhere at some point. And some of you might feel like, yeah, this is living up to my standards, and that's great, but whatever those standards are, let's ramp it up a little bit, because things are about to go down. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, a hidden owl hover? Please. My dad's been doing this. Well, this isn't your dad's hidden owl. This is my hidden owl. For those that don't know, the hidden owl is meant to look like the South Clocktown owl from West Clocktown, but it's actually a fully functional owl that happens to be in West Clocktown. So what I did was, I fell while talking to the owl, and I saved at it. I actually saved at that owl. And you're going to be hearing about the consequences of that for a lot of the run, so get ready for that. It might not look like anything's changed, but the game has changed. You might be wondering why I entered this random generic grotto. There's really nothing of value here at first glance. However, as it would turn out, every single grotto in the game is placed on the same scene. Only one map is loaded at a time, though. So if I hover out of bounds, technically all of the other grottos are available to me if I hover far enough. Keep in mind that my explosive count is limited, but the grotto in question that I care about happens to be the Lens of Truth cave. So ultimately, the reason I went in that grotto is that it was a shortcut for me to get the Lens of Truth, because that's exactly what I want. No, so yeah, the Lens of Truth is required for me to get the Goron Mask. And let me tell you, I'm gonna need the Goron Mask. I'd go as far to say as that's a requirement for this to be possible. You like those bomb drops, by the way? Open up Notepad, casual players. You think I need the Lens of Truth to get past these platforms? I only needed a bunch of save states because I kept falling, actually. So it was actually around this time that MZX Rules and also Nerds with the Game both made me a bomb timer script. That proved really helpful because it let me get these Hesses first try. Like, you always roll when there's 11 frames left on the bomb timer. It made it super easy to do this stuff and looks really clean. So thank you guys for that. If you're a casual gamer, don't even bother closing Notepad, because you're just about to reopen it right now. Remember that ladder that you had to climb? You like mashed Lens of Truth so you didn't waste magic? Well, I'm not even gonna climb that ladder. There's a nice little seam that I could climb, and with carefully timed side hops, I could get up here, and this will take me all the way to the top of the grave. It's a very welcome time saver, because I really hated that. As it would turn out, all you have to do is have Darmani's ghost show up on screen for 1 frame. That's all you need Lens for. Then once you play Song of Healing, then you can get the Goron Mask. So yeah, thanks for forcing me to get that, Nintendo. This cutscene's rather emotional, and out of respect for the dead, you can just watch this in peace. I'll see you in a little bit. I'm back, and better than ever. I've learned a lot while I was gone. If you guys were missing the dungeons, you're like, wow, Great Bay Temple, that was a tease. All you did was get the ice arrows, and there wasn't really any challenge there. Don't worry, I'm about to go into Snowhead, and we're gonna get some serious stuff done, and it's gonna be good, so stick around. Now, something to keep in mind is that I'm heading towards Snowhead Temple, but I don't have the Goron Lullaby. And I very much intend to get inside Snowhead Temple without it. How do I plan on doing that? Okay, there's gonna be a lot of crazy stuff that's about to happen, and I'm not gonna have enough time to explain it all, but I will later. So yeah, I'll explain all this stuff later. Yeah, don't worry. All of this will come up. All these concepts will come up again. But yeah, brace yourself. Just go ahead and consider this the tasting menu. This is what you can expect from this run. And it'll all be explained soon enough, so don't worry. Alright, we're just gonna pretend like none of that happened, and we're in Snowhead Temple as Zora. And we're leaving. Alright, all that crazy stuff you saw for me to get into the temple, there was actually more craziness going on behind the scenes that is important. Let's start with the concept of that hidden owl that I saved at, because that is the root cause of all of this. Also, remember that I played Song of Double Time there. That's going to be important. Basically, saving at that hidden owl gives us a very special property that I'll explain piece by piece as it comes up. So for right now, don't worry about anything actually. Just sit back and assume that everything's normal. Like, I went across that ramp normally, I'm Goron normally. We'll get to everything. For the sake of transparency, so we can follow along, my goal right now is to beat the temple. I want to beat Snowhead. So I'm going to start by grabbing this key. The order that I do this stuff is important, but we'll fill in the blanks as we go along. An important piece to the puzzle that we're about to see is something called song storage. If I push this block in one, that creates an acute angle between the block and the wall that I can clip through. With a carefully angled punch, I can play my ocarina as I fall, and play a song. If I void before the song finishes, the song is stored. This is important, that concept, so keep that in mind. Alright, so in the temple, here comes our first obstacle, this bombable wall, but we don't have any access to bombs. So what I do is a ledge clip. Ledge clip requires a perpendicular wall from a ledge you can hang on the left side of. Now, back to song storage. The save prompt for Song of Time that I stored after I got that small key will come up after a text box. This is why the order matters. If I stored Song of Time before I got the key, the save prompt would come up when the You Got a Key text box came up, whereas I want it after I get fire arrows. The Wizard fight is pretty standard, so I'll mention the special property of saving at the hidden owl now. Saving at any owl sets a value that's meant to get unset when you load the game again and get the text that says, if you wish to save your game, blah blah blah. By saving at the owl while voiding out as I did, I get to avoid that, and that means that saving my game with Song of Time now has a strange effect. Namely, as I'm about to do shortly, saying yes to the Song of Time save prompt will take me to day 0, which is truly actually before what the game considers the first day. And, while not fully understood why, around 3 seconds after you select yes, the game's save data will revert back to what it was when you chose yes. Long story short, a relevant side effect of this is, by switching transformations after I save, but before those 3 seconds of save purgatory end, the C buttons I was allowed to use at the time of saving remain in their same state, even if I switch a different item over it. As you can see here, I can use Hookshot as Goron now. And if Goron's holding the first person item, he's capable of performing a Goron missile, which is this thing. And that's a whole nother can of worms. These are really important tools, so excuse me for going all textbook mode on you there, but those are the strengths we're working with. Each of these things also actually have weaknesses, and I'll explain those like as they come up. So it's not like having Goron Missile and having 0th Day like makes this task arbitrarily easy, because it actually doesn't. It makes it interesting. And that's why I wanted to do this puzzle. I wanted to show, like, even with these powerful tools, there's still a lot of stuff that has to be figured out. Right now, there's still 2 concerns with being able to beat the temple. The first is that Goat needs to be melted, which needs a fire arrow. Some of you following along might think, what's the issue? Just use 0th Day to use fire arrows as Goron. 2 things. 1, I don't have a quiver, so Goron can't shoot a fire arrow. And 2, the effects of 0th Day disappear after an area is loaded, meaning I can't carry that ability over to Goat's room. To account for this, I need to be able to store Song of Time for me to use inside Goat's room, and you can't just store it anywhere. This was actually the only spot in this room that I could find. This Song of Double Time is for dealing with the second issue with beating the temple, which I haven't addressed yet. I'll get to that. I also haven't really explained anything about Goron Missile yet, but I'll get in more detail as it comes up again. And so, I store another Song of Time, which really just needs an edge over a void, but that's not always easy to find in doors like this. Voiding out respawns you at your last door, which is why I came up here before storing Song of Time. Keep in mind voiding reloads the area, so I don't have 0th Day active and I don't have Goron Missile, and that's still true in this room. Just a weak and powerless Goron. I do have a Song of Time stored now, and I can bring up the text box on the pause menu to get the save prompt. Deku is normally bottom tier, like you're never gonna see him played in tournament. With 0th Day unlocks some of his superpowers. Like right there, I was able to shoot a fire arrow even though I don't have quiver. And that's because Deku can just shoot infinite arrows. If he has the ability to like use a bow or like one of the elemental arrows, he can just shoot as many arrows as he wants. Now, because I have Fire Arrow, I'm actually limited by how much magic I have. But I'm just gonna shoot arrows that go as normal, and that'll be that. Now, this is a good time to mention what the second problem with beating the temple is. And this applies to every temple, actually. Gotta get that refill. As I was saying, the thing is, when you collect boss remains, you get transformed to human, and this is just unavoidable. So there's actually one way around this. Our goal is to get a text box on the screen before we grab the remains. The absolute only way I can do this right now in this dungeon is to play Song of Double Time all the way to Night 3. So here's an important nuance that was missed as it happened earlier in the dungeon. When it's day 0, you cannot play Song of Double Time, because there's no text that says, proceed to dawn of the first day, ? When I entered Snowhead, because I entered using 0th day Goron Missile, it was day 0, so I left and re-entered to make it day 1 again. Before activating 0th day in the dungeon, I have to make it night, which I did at the start of the dungeon, and before I stored Song of Time the second time. When you activate 0th day at night, if you pull out your ocarina, it'll proceed time forward to dawn of the first day. This happened both times in Snowhead, and this allows me to play Song of Double Time because it's not day 0 anymore. Okay, I think we're mostly up to speed now, so let's take a short break and let that information marinate, soak in, however you want to call it. Just relax a little bit. Alright, break time is over. So playing Song of Double Time on Night 3 brings up that text box and I can walk. Now I can pick up the remains and thankfully move the cutscene forward. And if that wasn't possible, this run would not be possible. And now we get to watch this cutscene as Goron, which is normally impossible, so enjoy that view. Okay though, break time for real. You can just watch this cutscene. I don't really have anything to interject, so I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Now let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. Why don't I have Song of Soaring? Important tidbit alert. Playing Song of Soaring will it'll bring up the text that's like, oh, save at the owl. Or if you save at the owl, you can do something. And that will get rid of that stored owl save effect. It'll make the save file like a normal save file again, and then you lose 0th day ability and all that. So Song of Soaring isn't that useful to us. Have you ever seen a playthrough of this game that hasn't gone to Woodworld after an hour of gameplay? Don't think so. But that's where we're heading next. It seems like a little ways away, but don't worry, I know a shortcut. Oh no, ice. Okay, problem gone. Remember what I said about all grottos being in the same scene? let's take advantage of that again. Now, here's a trick I found on complete accident. I was just trying to hover to the loading zone, but it turns out you can just land on the ledge here for some reason. Huge shoutouts to OMG a Tree for TASing this part. This is actually the only guest appearance of the run, so hello and goodbye, OMG a Tree. And now we are in Deku Palace. I'm sure most of you don't remember a grotto being here in Deku Palace, and that's because they removed it in the English version. Well, the grotto's still there, as you saw, but they just got rid of the hole. Okay, so a glitchy wall kick later, and we're right next to the monkey, ready to get Sonata. Plain and simple, you need Sonata in order to get into Woodfall, and we need Woodfall to get the fairies and beat Woodfall and all that, so there you go. That's why we're here. Sorry, my mic was on mute. How embarrassing. Just kidding, I didn't have anything to say during that cutscene, so not gonna bother. Though, yeah, I mean, if you've been enjoying the dungeon gameplay, the good news is I'm gonna do dungeon next. I mean, there's a lot of dungeon gameplay to look forward to, so you're in luck. That is assuming that you're a dungeon fan. If you're watching this and you're more like, you know what, I like the time outside the dungeons, then the idea of me entering Woodfall really soon might be disappointing. Oh look, I'm getting Song of Soaring. Since Zeroth Day is so integral to this run, this song is mostly useless to us. But it is useful enough that since we're passing it anyway, there is a good reason to get it. And, well, when I play Song of Soaring in the run, then you'll see. And I don't remember fully, but I think I only used it once. Maybe twice. But if I do, it'll be like right after the first time. But that's definitely strange. Seeing the playthrough of this game without really using Song of Soaring when like pretty much like every playthrough just relies on it. Like it's so important to soar places because it's so fast. And this run just like doesn't need it. We can be fast even without it. This is kind of unrelated to everything, but I think this particular scene is the weakest in the entire game. Like, this Woodfall exterior location is just... ugh. So... alright, let's get back to the game. You would think with all my abilities now, like, there's not much I'm missing in terms of movement options, that I'd be able to get to this Woodfall Owl sooner, but I still have to go, like, this way around. There's just not a fast way to get up here. Okay, new dungeon coming up means more crazy shenanigans. And this time, not only am I beating Woodfall, but I'm getting all of the fairies in it. So we're just gonna have one trip in Woodfall. I'm not leaving this place until I have everything I need. Now's a good time to think of the obstacles that we have to overcome in Woodfall. What is human responsible for here? Well, in terms of lighting torches, only human can use Deku Stick or arrows. And also, eye switches are the same problem. So right off the bat, I'm just going to store Song of Time. And this time I used a ladder clip to do that. If I'm going to use Zeroth Day, it's imperative that I use it before I collect any fairies. Because using Song of Time and saving gets rid of all your fairies, so I have to do that before I get any of them. Which is exactly what I do here. Now I can use items as Deku, but 2 weaknesses. Because of this, I cannot use Goron Missile at all in Woodfall, because I already chose to use Deku. The second thing is, I can't climb any ladders, climb any ledges, go in Deku Flowers or any of that, because then I can't use items as Deku anymore. That'll remove that ability. Basically, anything that dims the C buttons will remove that ability. So, no Goron Missile in this dungeon. Although this kinda looks like a shortcut, I have to hookshot this chest, since the only other way would be to use a Deku Flower, and like I said, I still want to use items, like right there. So, wait a minute, where did the sword come from? Well, I'm glad you asked. Going back to the concept of 3-second save purgatory, switching transformations right after activating Zeroth Day, but before those 3 seconds end, the B button is reverted back to what it was when you saved. Tidbit alert, Zora's B button is ordinarily the Kokiri sword. He just treats bludgeoning items like punches, so having Zora punch on Deku B is actually having a sword on B. Alright, back to the gameplay. Keep in mind I still don't have bow, so I'm using this as a little shortcut to be able to get to the second floor without flowers or climbing a ladder or anything. I still don't want to do that. For those that don't remember this dungeon that well, normally you're supposed to come this way from the other way around, so I'm doing these rooms in reverse. Not really much to say about this room, but I'm just gonna put it out there. I think this is the worst fairy in the game. Which, I mean, it really says a lot about the strength of Majora's Mask's dungeons. I think they really did a good job in the fairies. Fairies were a great idea. I know you're watching this, Nintendo. Bring that back. So, to give a general idea, mainly what I'm trying to be doing, and this isn't just for this temple, but every temple, is when I use Zeroth Day, I want to just use any items that I have to use and, like, do all of that, because then once I get rid of Zeroth Day, which I have to, then I can just get the rest of the fairies. And right here, we're done with... We don't have any special powers anymore. We're just normal dudes right now. Meaning all the rest I just have to do legit. Now might be a good time to mention, but 2 things. 1, if Goron falls in the water, he'll respawn as human. So no matter what, we cannot fall in the water as Goron. That was a close call. The other thing is, if you die, you respawn at the beginning of the temple as human. We also don't want that. Third thing is, third out of 2 things, if you play Song of Soaring, you go to the beginning of the dungeon, but you lose Zeroth Day. Or the ability to get it, rather. That owl save thing. So, those are just things to keep in mind. Here's something some of you might not know. The Dynalphos is weak to the Goron Pound. It just dies in 1 hit. Okay, after all this, we finally are able to get the bow. Keep in mind that there is no way that we're going to be able to use the bow in this dungeon, since we still have fairies to get. So, yeah. But the bow will come in handy outside of this dungeon. This is a cool little shortcut that I found. It might not have looked like much, but if I just went straight out of the bow room, I wouldn't have been able to get to this gecko fight in the same flower cycle. Here's some more enemy trivia that might not be known, but the Goron Pound can do that to the turtles, which I mentioned because once you get the Goron Mask, you don't really even need to see the turtles ever again. So yeah, we're just making do with what we have. Instead of using the DQ flowers to get the frog, that's a frog I think, off the turtle, and instead of using arrows to hit the frog, I think that's a frog, off the ceiling, you just use Majora boomerangs. It's pretty much our only option for that part. And if you didn't catch it, the reason why we're just doing this stuff now, like getting the bow and getting the boss key now, even though we were already in this room, is, and it might sound like I'm repeating myself because I am, but I just really want to drive it home that we needed to use the DQ flower to get here. So that's why we saved it for after we already did everything else we wanted, and now we don't have like any 0th day abilities anyway. So for the rest of the dungeon, what should we be looking out for in terms of things to overcome? So, like I said before, every dungeon has the problem of the boss remains. When you collect the boss remains, you turn human. So right now it's day 1. If we play Song of Double Time right now, we will soft lock. Because there's no text for Proceed to Dawn of the First Day. And we're not going to play Song of Double Time at all. So that's something to look forward to. And we have all the fairies, so all we have to do is beat the boss and do the thing to not turn human after getting the remains, and we're good to go. Okay, we can use this acute angle to clip, and since, luckily, this edge is over a void, we can Ocarina Dive and store a song. It actually does not matter which song. And then let's just go right back. This is a neat little oddity. If you go in the flower before that switch cutscene, no matter what, you're just not gonna be in the flower afterwards, so you have to go in again. It's the little things. Now I know what you're not thinking. How are we gonna beat the boss without being human? But even though this part's not a challenge, it really speaks volumes to how great Majora's Mask's bosses are. Because with all the bosses, you can just kind of beat them in multiple ways, and I think that's great with this. I can choose to do this. There was nothing weird about, well, this stored text is kind of weird, but you know. By the way, casual gamers with Notepad open, Bomb Flower does a ton of damage to Adola. That's why that fight was so fast. Alright, so because we were able to get into the boss room with stored text, we were able to skip having to play Song of Double Time so many times. Because just having a textbook box up, being able to walk around, that's really all you need to be able to do the thing with the remains. And we get to see another cutscene as Goron, which is normally normally you just have to see this cutscene as human. I'm not saying anything of value right now, and I don't have to. This cutscene, this is a break. You're not supposed to learn anything during this cutscene. You're supposed to just enjoy it. I mean, I can just turn off my mic right now. I could, but I haven't yet. I'm still going. That was actually way faster of a cutscene than I remember. And on the subject of cutscenes that look nothing like they were intended to look, what is going on here? This is normally where the swamp is supposed to be purified, which would be really nice if it was, but it's still poisonous and Woodfall is still lowered. And that's because I did Song of Time storage inside the dungeon, which undid the temple being raised. Yeah, that's a thing. If I exited as Biku, actually, I would have been drowning, stuck in an infinite drowning loop. So that would have been bad. Keep in mind, I still need to get Great Spin. I'm just taking a small detour first because I want to store Song of Time. And there's no place that I can do it inside where I just was. Okay, I'm getting spring water. That'll come up later, so keep that in the back of your mind. Alright, so here's another acute angle. Perfect place to store Song of Time. And when we void, it'll take me right back to where I was, so I don't have far to go. If the game audio sounds low or weird, that's actually a side effect of song storage. I'm not about to get into it, but I am going at least a different way around this time to get to Great Spin. Not saying this was a faster way, but at least it's a different way. I mean, this might be the fastest way to do it. I doubt it, but it looked cool. Alright, finally, after all of our trials and tribulations, we can go ahead and get a fairy reward. We've already gotten magic, so this will be our second one. Okay, we got Great Spin. Don't believe me? I'll prove it before the run ends. Okay, Woodfall's done, but now we have to go all the way to Snowhead, and I don't have Song of Soaring, so this will probably take a while. Okay, we're here. Remember when I said all grottos were on the same scene? Fairy fountains are the same way. All of the fairy fountains are laid out next to each other in order. So with the Goron missile, I have so much speed that I can clip through the acute angle and just run all the way to the Snowhead Fairy Fountain and just exit through there, and then here I am. Now, I'm getting into Snowhead Temple the exact same way as last time, but faster. How's that for character development? Yeah, no messing around, we're just doing dungeons. Time to get the fairies in Snowhead now. Since I plan on using 0th Day in this dungeon, I'm not going to get fairies until I use 0th Day, because it wouldn't make sense to get some fairies, then activate it, because that uses Song of Time, and then have to get the fairies again, so that's just a common theme. As you can see, same start as last time, but here's where it's different. I'm storing Song of Time now, instead of getting this key. So remember, once a text box appears on screen, that's when this text will pop up, and that's when I'll do 0th Day. Then I can start getting fairies, and I won't be able to do 0th Day once I remove that ability. And because that's the case, it's crucial when I activate it, because I can't just do everything while always in that state. So I'm very careful as to choose when I start. So I use the title text here to activate it now. Since doing that is saving, it would remove any small keys I got, so now I get this small key after I did that. And now I have access to Goron Missile. So now is the perfect time to explain it. Goron Missile allows us to get unbounded amounts of speed, and it gets released once you land on the ground curled. Though I made that fairy look easy, that was actually one of the most difficult things to do in this run. In order to go in the air, you need a slope, and if you have too much speed, you'll fly way too far out of bounds to get back inbounds. So even though Goron Missile seems completely overpowered, it couldn't be used in this room to get past this door, because there's no slope or anything. I had to use the bomb to do that. Oh no, ice. Another strange property of Goron Missile is that on some walls, if you curl into the wall, you can just rise up it, as you see there. Another important note is that you can't use first-person items as Goron in actual first-person. If you do, it super crashes the game. Like, super duper crashes the game. If you don't know what that means, it doesn't really matter, but take my word. So instead, you had to just target and then, like, aim the thing in third person. That's the way around it. This is a better fairy than the Black Bow room in Woodfall, by the way. Something interesting is, when you open a chest that has a stray fairy in it, as human, like, the fairy just goes to you automatically. But if you're any transformation, you have to actually walk into the fairy. Take note that I got an arrow drop just then, since I plan on shooting fire arrows. Now, I don't need to go in that green room that I opened up now. That was mainly to just open it for later, for when I don't have Goron Missile anymore. And here's the perfect example of how Goron Link has almost absolutely no aerial drift whatsoever. Keep in mind that there's no slopes below this level, so I couldn't have used Goron Missile to get to this point. But now that there is a slope, here I am. Oh no, ice. This fairy was actually the very last fairy to be solved on how to get. Shoutouts to Imbued for that solution, since that is actually the only way. A normal Goron damage boost wouldn't have made it in there, and there's no slopes to Goron Missile, so had to use that icicle without breaking it. So once we got up to the Dynalphos, we actually didn't need Zeroth Day anymore. But I really like Goron Missile, so this will be the last room that I choose to use Zeroth Day stuff. As you can see, we're done. Alright, so here I'm just waiting for the fairy to be in just the right position, and I use an anti-grav jump slash to just fall a little slower by riding the ceiling and grab that. Oh hey, it's this room that we opened up earlier. As cool as it would be to do all of those freezers as Goron. I wasn't able to just like Goron roll to each of them, unfortunately. I would have loved to do that. So once we get the last fairy, we're done with this dungeon since we already beat the boss. But here's something to keep in mind. After doing Song of Time in the middle of the dungeon, the block is no longer pushed, so we don't have a way back to the beginning. Basically, if you went back to the first room, there'd be this gap that you couldn't get past. And dying will make you human, so we can't do that. Well, it's come to this. The Forbidden Song. Okay, that text box right there, that was the text box I was talking about. Now my save file is a normal save file again. So I don't have any weird save shenanigans happening anymore. If you're wondering what that was about, like my method of getting to the fairy fountain, that was just because the wind was still blowing, so I was gonna get blown way off before I could get to the fairy fountain. So I had to get ISG, Infinite Sword Glitch, which would prevent me from falling, and then work my way to the fairy fountain that way. And if you remember, I was able to skip the Great Spin cutscene. Double magic and double defense are not skippable, because the way the Great Fairy cutscenes work is they give you the item like when you start them, but double magic and double defense don't work that way, so that was me watching the cutscene. What's this? I have a speedrun tidbit alert coming in. With a trick called Index Warp, shoutouts to Indextic, I can soar to the Clocktown Owl even though I never hit it. The normal map cursor is shared with the Song of Soaring cursor, but normally gets overwritten when an owl you hit is selected. Because the only owl I hit was a hidden owl, which doesn't have a spot on the Soaring map, that map cursor isn't overwritten, meaning I could just soar to whatever I had my normal map cursor at. Yeah, that jump looked kinda cool. Getting that ruby chest looked kinda cool. But this was an oversight on my part, because if I knew I needed rupees, I would have just gotten them in Snowhead. So that's me putting the L in Lotad. And because the All Fairy Rewards definition requires Great Fairy Mask, let's get that, even though it's completely useless to us. So I got those rupees just because I wanted to buy one set of chews. Now I'm gonna hit the hidden owl again, but let's spice it up. I'm not gonna do the same method as last time. Alright, so if you want, just remember, like, this moment. Like, you know how when you were a kid and, like, you were in your car and, like, you're like, I'm gonna remember this moment for the rest of my life. And then you did. Just remember that. Okay, since I'm allowed to be human, I can store Song of Time out of a hover. I'm just gonna say right now, in a dungeon, I'm never gonna be able to hover. There's no way to get Infinite Sword Glitch as a transformation. Even with 0th Day, I can't hover in a dungeon, so let's just nip that in the bud. Okay, I have a confession to make. Look at this low tad movement. I could have easily done a bomb chew Hess. And this is the worst defender of all. Look at this. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get Hess speed off a bomb chew. I have a great fairy mask, by the way. See? Look, there it is. I skipped the cutscene. So remember, the fairy fountains are all connected. So I went from Clocktown to Woodfall, and then you can probably guess what's next. I had to do this blind. There's Woodfall to Snowhead. Now I have to do it blind again. This was actually pretty difficult because reasons. I did that one backwards, but that was Snowhead to Great Bay, so no Song of Soaring again, but doesn't matter. I have Goron Missile. I have the power of God and anime on my side. I don't know why I did that. Yeah, that happened. So I'm gonna skip this turtle cutscene again, but because it's a day, I have the ability to just do that with a Song of Double Time. Here's some food for thought. Though I was fortunate with Woodfall and Snowhead having places for me to store songs, in Great Bay, there's like just nowhere convenient for me to store a song. Just like nowhere in the dungeon that I can do this. So I need a place before I enter the dungeon to just store Song of Time. And here's a spot that I don't even know if anyone knows about. Had to pull this one out of my back pocket of secret tricks. Yeah, there's a little gap in the floor here, and there's no ocean floor underneath this thing, so I could just do my song storage right here. And we're back to the dungeon rush. I'm gonna get all the fairies, and I'm gonna beat the dungeon in this go. And this will be it for Great Bay Temple. And we're getting all the 0th day shenanigans right out of the way, right at the start. Yeah, let me just grab some arrows, because I need that to be able to shoot arrows as Goron. So, this is, you had to use 0th day in order to get this fairy, since you have to light the torches, and there's no other way to do it. Here's a first world problem. If I got too much speed on my Goron Missile, I would have missed the loading plane in between the main room and the water wheel room. And this fairy, this is the fairy that made me get ice arrows. Since Goron aerial drift is so poor, there's no way that I can just get to the top. There's no slope or anything, so I had the hookshot up there. So the other hookshot near the start of the room, I wouldn't be able to land up here otherwise, so I needed that ice arrow platform. Okay, so now we can go back to the main room. And here's the thing, there's a lot of fairies that need Zora Mask, so we're just done with 0th day now. Like, I need Zora to get this fairy, for instance, that one right there. Like, I couldn't get that as Goron. And now I'm stuck. I can't use 0th day for anything else. I had to basically do this whole dungeon without 0th day to help me. Okay, so let's go in this yellow tunnel. Psych! Okay, sorry about that. In order to sync while doing the super swim, you just have to delay your B button presses. I used a script for super swimming because it was getting really annoying to just like manually do it, and I'm really bad at it, so. This fairy normally requires Great Fairy Mask, like you pop the bubble and then get it. I can just barely reach it with DQ, so that's pretty cool. And now we're gonna fight against the current again, this way, while also getting the fairy. Okay, time to not go in this yellow tunnel. Psych! Small shortcut, I can just bonk on that lily pad to land up there. I apologize for what is about to transpire. This may be the single worst super swim ever concocted by man. Look at this. How fast am I going? What am I going? 1 unit? It kind of looks like Zorlink is like pushing the water away with his hands, like he's flapping the water forward. Yeah. Never mind. Okay. Ordinarily, we would use ice arrows to stop the water wheel in this room, but not a problem. With a pretty precise jump, Zorlink can just make it there, and then we could just ride this baby all the way to that room. So, we're good. Oh yeah, and this room's supposed to be like a fire and ice arrow puzzle. Zorlink, his jumps, like, we could just not do any of that, so we're good. Okay, yeah, we want to go back from whence we came. I don't know if that was proper English, but don't correct me. There's another fairy that we want to get in here. Apparently that was a known strat that you could do that. I actually found that on accident, but that was known, so nothing crazy. And this will be the last fairy right here. Ugh, but now we have to go all the way to the boss, so I don't want to do that, so let me just pull out my hacks. Come on. I'm in. So I guess that was the first boss key skip of the run, so I guess let me explain that. In a dungeon, the boss loading zone is always present. So if you can touch the loading zone at any point, you can just skip the boss key, just like go there. With the ledge clip, I was able to get out of bounds and swim just directly to that loading zone. So here we are. And that song at double time that I played before the boss started, that should be a pretty good indication of what's to come, meaning yeah, I had to do that whole Song of Double Time to Night 3 thing. And this boss too. Well, I said 2, but the thing that I said about Adola is true for this boss as well, where it's like, at no point does even the casual gamer that has Notepad open right now, the casual gamer right now is like, I'm not writing notes. I already know that I could beat Georg without a human. Duh. So, yeah, that's just a thing with the bosses. Twin Mold, though? That'll be a good one. Keep your eyes peeled for that one. Not many people know this, but you actually can just hit Georg right after that cutscene. You don't have to like get back to land and re-stun him. So if you close Notepad, you probably look like a fool right now. And yep, I have to play Song of Double Time a bunch. I have to get to like Night of the Third Day, then play it again to get the text that's like, bro, you can't play Song of Double Time, what are you doing? And then once that text is up, then I grab the remains. So, this is a good time for me to read donations. There are none. But yeah, again, the reason that this is possible, kind of sneaky, but that turtle cutscene skip that made it night, that was exactly what we wanted, since, as before, doing 0th day at night will bring you to day 1 after you pull out the ocarina, which is exactly what happened. But that's in a dungeon. It's actually night 3 now, and that's gonna prove to be very inconvenient, as you'll see in a little bit. You gotta love the camera angles when you're not human in this cutscene. And Turtle's not looking so hot. That's because, again, Song of Time inside the dungeon, that undid raising the turtle, so we have that glitched turtle rock now. All this weird stuff that I'm about to do, like, before I get double defense, is because of that thing that I said about what happens when you play, or what happens when you activate 0th day when it's night. So if I were to, say if I were in the Fairy Fountain, and I were try to do 0th day, as soon as I paused to equip, like, my shooting item for Goron Missile, I'd get, like, the Dawn of the First Day cutscene, and then I wouldn't have it anymore. The reason it works in dungeons is because there's no day transition. There's no cutscene in a dungeon that says Dawn of a New Day, that sort of thing. So I have to do all this weird stuff to get around it. So to recap, what I did so far was I stored Song of Time, then I went back into Zora Cape, or Zora Hall, and left again so that I could get the bomb drop, since I want more bombs. And now I'm making my way to the Fairy Fountain with stored Song of Time. Alright, so the stored Song of Time text comes up, but it matters when I select yes. If I do it too early, the cutscene doesn't progress and then I just get locked. But the whole reason of doing that was so that I could make it day. I wanted to go from night 3 to day, so I had to use Song of Time storage to get the first day. That was really my only way around that, and now I have double defense. But now I need to store Song of Time again, since I want to be able to use 0th day. Well, this is some deja vu. But this will be the last time that we see this hover, and then we're good to go after this. Yeah, all that just so we can Goron missile inside this fairy fountain. And just like that, we're in Icona, and we're ready to wrap things up. All we got left is Stone Tower. That'll be the last fairy reward. Of course, I saved the most convoluted dungeon for last, so there's a lot to look forward to. Remember how in low percent it took like 13 minutes to climb up here and get inside Stone Tower? Well, I'll let the gameplay speak for itself. Alright, last dungeon, let's go. Remember when I grabbed that spring water? Well, it's time. I can explain. It was recently discovered by probably Butter, that's his name, that the spring water hitbox can clear some blocks. Though the one I already did is the only one that's useful to us, so you won't be seeing it again this run. Okay, like the other dungeons, the time that I activate 0th day matters. So I want to do it after I get this key and open this locked door. Because after I play Song of Time, the key goes away and the door becomes locked again. And that's important because the room where the key chest is, say I do Goron Missile there, I'm not going to be able to get back to that room that I just came from because of that water. The water's in the way. So now I actually need to store Song of Time. Big thanks to glitches and stuff for this song storage method. So inside a sunblock, Beacon Link can actually side hop to clip out of bounds. Now, if I land right on the edge, I have 1 frame to transform. Now I'm out of bounds again, and I can swim through the tunnel and dive above the load trigger to get into this room unloaded. From here, if I ledge clip where the sunblock used to be, there's no water here in this unloaded section, so I can ocarina dive. And of course, the reason I get song storage after getting the key is because opening the key chest gives a text box which would activate the save prompt too soon. This is the room that I want to get 0th day activated in. Okay, the issue with this room is that you have to find a way to get past the sunblock, and there's no slope to do so. I found a trick to account for this. With enough speed, rolled up Goron can clip between perpendicular wall and ground if you land perfectly. You might think, are there any hardships if I have Goron Missile available to me? Or am I just gonna breeze through the rest of the dungeon? So, lingering, there is a very important difficulty. I'll get to it. Let's blast through with Sonic Speed to open that fire chest before it hurts us. Goron Master isn't special, so here's the problem with Stone Tower. Because fairies are split between the normal and inverted temple, I absolutely can't use any zeroth day shenanigans once I leave the dungeon. Meaning, after I leave to invert, I won't have any special abilities and just have to get Great Fairy Sword without any items to help us. With all that in mind, it's important that whatever we need items for, I just need to do it now or forever hold my peace. Oh, here's light arrows, by the way. There's a crystal switch in this room that I need to hit, but I can actually go on missile the clip inside there and just hit it. There's a nice slope along the edges here, so we have no issues getting back up. You walk into GameStop and this guy grabs your GF's fairy. What do? Read him like a book. Like I said before, Song of Time undoes the key chest in the locked door, so I'm able to grab that key again. And here's a just for fun way of using that bomb. Okay, this particular Goron missile is really cool because I use the recoil from like banging into a wall and use that momentum to go over the bridge. Note that I grab arrows here, I'm gonna need them. Since there's still fairies in the mirror room that I haven't grabbed, I'm going to need to get the small key here so that I can open that locked door again. That's why I'm fighting these guys. And it's at this point that I remembered, oh yeah, I could just go on missile everywhere. We're almost done. We're just making a last sweep with light arrows, so that's why I even have to go back to the mirror room to begin with. I didn't have light arrows the first time I was there. So, it's important to note that stuff like that, I hit that sun switch then, because even though, like, normal, casual players, they can just hit that in Inverted Stone Tower. I don't have that ability. I'm not going to be able to shoot light arrows in Inverted Temple. So I need to prepare the dungeon as much as I can before I leave. The sunblock exists again, by the way. Song of Time. It'll do it to you. It had to do it to him. So that 10 arrows that I grabbed, I'm using all 10 of them before I leave this dungeon. Like, it just worked out that that was how many arrows I needed. It's kind of amazing how much light arrows they want you to use light arrows. Again, necessary prep that I have to get out of the way. Here's the second use of ice arrows. This one I'm not convinced that I needed ice arrows for. Like, maybe I didn't need them. But I didn't have to worry about it because I already had them. And that's it. We don't have anything except the shirts on our backs now for the rest of this dungeon. Let's see what we can do. I realize that now that Deku, Zora, and Goron Link, none of them have shirts. I don't know why I never noticed that until now. Like, Link wears a shirt, why don't any of these other guys? We're outside of a dungeon now, so it's fair game to be human. You can extend the bow's reach so it shoots through walls, and I take advantage of that to quickly invert the temple. Where we're going, song storage won't help us. So let's go inside the temple. Actually, wait, these bugs look kinda nice. To prime yourself, the first issue that we have is that there's not a clear way to get to either the left room or the right room. The left room has a gap blocking its path, and the right room has a sunblock, and we don't have a way to get past that sunblock because we don't have explosives or lighter or anything like that. With a careful jump and jump slash, then a side hop, we have enough room to jump onto this grating here. And that can let us jump to the switch. So that chest there, we'll have to get that back in normal Stone Tower. But now we can continue on our merry way along the dungeon. There is a key in here that I do need, but I don't have Elegy. Normally, when you hit that switch, it'll only stay temporarily, but I'm gonna use Bottle Time Stop to store the switch's cutscene. I use C up to activate the cutscene now, and I have just enough time to open the chest before the flames rise back up. So we're good to go. Using the Deku flower is the only way we can get across this gap. It's strange how far we've come. Back in our youth, we saw that gap and we were like, pfft, please. I could go on missile leagues beyond that. But now, we have to be humble. Remember our roots. This Wizrobe isn't like the ones in Snowhead. He takes more hits, and the Goron Punch isn't any stronger than Pound, like he is in Snowhead, so I have to hit this man 8 times. It's really making us work. Also, I don't have a way back up to the chest once it spawns, so once the cutscene ends, like this chest cutscene right here, I just have to void out and then respawn back at my last door, so we're good, we're good. Crisis averted. Does anyone remember this room? No? Well, this is really the only way we can get to the Updraft Room. That's why I got the key, because there's a locked door that takes me here. Okay. Big problem. There's a fire chest up there. We don't have elegy, and we also don't have a way to get a lot of speed like we did for the other fire chest to just open it. So we need a way to open that chest. Now I know what you're thinking. Aye, lad, what's the problem? Just use Bottle Time Stop. Only Zora can battle Time Stop because of his standing shield, and he can't make it from the switch to the fire chest. Deku needs to do that. And, of course, like everything genius, shoutouts to glitches and stuff for the solution to this. Deku can't press down switches, so we turn Zora, and before the switch cutscene activates, turn Deku again, and start pause buffering to delay the cutscene. Now, we could just pause buffer all day to that fire chest. That would solve it. But we're a little bit better than that. We want to save like 3 to 4 minutes of your time, so let's do something pretty neat. It turns out Bottle Time Stop isn't the only way to get Time Stop. When you die, you're also in Time Stop mode, but you're, dead. So that's no good. Now, obviously we lowered our health, so we're about to die. Let's just elephant in the room, we're gonna die. We're killing ourselves. The suspense is killing me before whatever I'm doing is about to kill me. Here it is. I land right on the ledge, which gives me fall damage and kills me, but I slip off. The death animation will only start on the ground, so I successfully delayed death. Then, I'm able to land on the heart, and that revives me so I'm able to move around, which gives me normal time stop that I could just cancel with C up. And that gives me just enough time to open that chest, and we're good to go. And we have to take the Walk of Shame back up there and collect our prize. But wait a minute, how are we gonna get this fairy? Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just testing to see if you were paying attention. So there is still one fairy left. And reminder that we can't die, because that'll turn us human, and we don't want to play Song of Soaring. So we just have to make it back normally. That Goron roll is a nice little shortcut that saves us quite a bit of backtracking. Okay, we couldn't make this jump on the way going in, but going out, we're good. We can leave just fine. Like I said, I don't want to play Song of Soaring, so we have to manually disinvert the tower. I don't know what the antonym of invert is, but that's what we do to the tower. Unfortunately, that puts us here, so we do have to cross this gap. Let's do it in style. That pause delayed the cutscene, which made both block cutscenes play at the same time. This gives me enough time to recoil flip, and I paused to delay the block cutscene so I can land on it. And that's that. Now we can finish this up. Alright, that's every stray fairy in the game. But the challenge isn't over. We still need to beat Stone Tower, and there are problems with that, which I'll go over. Once we get Great Fairy Sword, we can safely Song of Time, so we do have 0th Day access again. But we won't be able to enter Twin Mold with the stored song. This is because we already had to have song storage in the room before we enter the boss, and if that's true, we can't have 0th Day access because song storage would require voiding, which would remove that. The pre-boss room has a hookshot target which prevents us from clearing it without human or 0th Day, so no song storage for Twin Mold. Oh, and by the way, here's Great Fairy Sword. Done. Skip the cutscene. And on the pause menu, there's proof that I have Great Fairy Sword, so every fairy reward, we have them all right now. The only one I haven't proved yet is Great Spin. I will prove that in the run, so don't worry. Okay, all we have to do now is beat Stone Tower, then we can just go ahead and beat the game. So, Stone Tower's Twin Mold's in inverted Stone Tower, so we have to invert the temple. Now, let's invert the temple in style. Yes, that was a real sound effect that my bow played. Okay, well, we don't have boss key or anything. Well, we definitely don't have anything, because I just used Song of Time to get Goron Missile, so... But yeah, we do have to get to the boss room. I'm just gonna go ahead and make it night. Because I can't store a song into the boss room, it has to be night for when I do 0th Day. Well, we're doing another Goron Missile, so let's see what wily antics Goron Link is up to. How does he plan on getting to Twin Mold? Stay tuned. Tidbit alert, I can shoot random sound effects. That's just something that's possible. Also, you can't really see it, but I'm like incredibly high up in the air. I am so incredibly high up in the air. And I plan on just landing in Twin Mold's room, so yeah, that's what we're doing. Literally just one room, we're gonna go directly to the boss room, so... yeah. And this is it. This is the last part of the challenge. We don't have arrows, we don't have Giant's Mask, but we have to beat Twin Mold. How are we gonna get out of this pickle? So, I'm gonna be real for a sec. This actually isn't the first time I've ever fought Twin Mold as Goron. I've done this before. Don't ask. Also, fun fact, Goron Punch is as strong as light arrows on Twin Mold. He's beefy. yeah, that's it. Now I just have to do Song of Double Time to avoid turning human once I grab the remains. But wait, if you're like, well, the challenge is done, let me leave. Don't close the video yet. Even though the challenge is solved, I promise I made the rest of the run interesting, so there's good reason to stick around. And by I made the rest of the run interesting, I don't mean like, oh, I'm reading a story over the rest of the run. That's interesting. No, I don't mean that at all. I mean like the actual gameplay is like the entire route. Like, I'm not gonna finish that thought, but you know what I'm talking about. So all of the crazy glitches, all of the trials and tribulations, all the clever strategies. But this run will be remembered by having the most Song of Double Times played in any playthrough of this game. For those still watching the video, the secret passcode is Swissmaster. Alright, so what's left? Pretty much we just have to watch this cutscene, which you're not supposed to be Goron Link during it, so that should be good for a laugh or two. Then we go to the moon, fight Majora. But like I said before, I'm gonna make sure that everything left is interesting, so don't worry about it. Note to translators, this is not how English syllables work. Okay, right now it is night of the third day, so the clock tower is open. I could do Song of Soaring to get to Clocktown and just fight Majora immediately. I could do that, but I won't. Song of Soaring? More like Song of Boring. Am I right, fellas? Instead, let's save our progress and reset. Okay, remember that part of the run where I was like, remember this moment? Like something about when you were a kid and you were in a car and you're like, oh, I remember that moment for no reason. Here's why. My save file only has Adola's remains and Goat's remains. It's what I was when I saved at that owl. But if I reset, now I have the correct save file. That was just a fun quirk of owl save data versus actual game save data. So loading the owl save, got rid of it, and then we're good to go now. I still do have that owl save storage, so I can get 0th day. Here's a nice little place that I could store Song of Time, and let's have a little bit of fun. Basically here, all I want is bombs. I don't really have a reason to do anything else, but... let's do one last Goron missile for the homies. Having Cookshot in my hand made those item drops invisible, by the way. Okay, and I want to have song storage for when I enter Clock Tower, just so I can show one cool thing. If you do Bottle Time Stop in front of a Gossip Stone, you can play an ocarina as you move around. So, right now I'm a walking ocarina, I'm a walking instrument, and I can store Song of Time now. Notice anything weird? There's normally a tower in the middle of the place there, but the tower's height varies based on what day it is, so because of the 0th day we just did, there's no tower there. Okay, right now we do have stored Song of Time, so let's see what the cool thing is once we get into Clock Tower. Boom! The sky's different. Look at that. Look what happened. Activating 0th day during this cutscene makes the time of day turn to 5:28 AM, which gives us this really weird orangish sky. The blood moon, if you will. Also, ordinarily, you're given a timer of 5 minutes. Because of the 0th day I did, there's no timer. I could have just stood around forever without anything happening. We're not in any danger. So, the Majora fight's gonna be good. Stick around for that. This Giants cutscene, now is probably the perfect time for me to do my shoutouts, because I didn't have time to do that in the intro. Okay, I'm just gonna do all of this in one take, because this cutscene's long anyway, so I have all the time to fumble over my words. All the time I need to do that, so... yeah. Well, every shoutout will represent a giant in the cutscene. So we'll start with South Clocktown giant glitches and stuff. I'm not gonna do that. That's not gonna be my shtick, but yeah, glitches and stuff gets a shoutout because he got the most shoutouts during the run. That's his shoutout. He helped a lot with coming up with some clever solutions. Seaborn, I asked Seaborn for a ton of help. He's been very helpful. Imbued basically solved the last piece of the puzzle. Like, thanks a lot for that. Yumius and OMG a Tree, they're both really good TASers. They made the low percent TAS. I think they're working on a new low percent TAS. Seaborn's probably working on that as well. But yeah, Yumius and OMG a Tree, they both helped. OMG a Tree actually did a section for me, as I pointed out. Because I'm terrible at TASing. Like, I found that clip and then he's like, I gave him the save state and then he did it for me, because that was difficult. Let's see, who else? I'm just going through Discord. Nerds with Game, I was like, hey, I have an important question, and he's like, yeah, and then after he said that, I'm like, never mind, figured it out. So, thank you, Nerds with Game. Sample Name, I asked Sample Name a ton of questions, and honestly, like, Sample Name, he's like, he breathes new life into Majora's Mask. I would say, like, Sample Name is gonna be like the new Majora's Mask god. Let's just keep scrolling down the list. Glank. I want to thank Glank. Okay. What else? Excuse me, my throat's dry. Or my mouth is dry. Kafta. Every run needs a shout out to Kafta, so here it is. Alright, we're done with shoutouts. that doesn't mean that I don't want to shout anyone else out. I'm just glad that other people share the same interests as I do. Like, everyone in the Majora's Mask community, I think Majora's Mask has a good community behind it. Like, yeah, I'm not good at speeches, and I'm not gonna edit this part, so that's all you get. But I didn't mean to leave anyone out. The reason I said the names I did was I was just scrolling through my most recent conversations in Discord, so that's how I came up with those names. So if you helped me and I didn't say your name, I'm sorry. Actually, you know what? Shoutouts to you, the casual gamer. If you have Notepad open, write this note down. Thank you. Okay, this cutscene's really long, and there's a lot of dead air. I just want to fight Majora. I want to show you what I did for Majora, it's really cool. Okay, we're finally on the moon. I want to store Song of Time so I can use one more 0th day. Of course, for Majora. There's not a good place for me to store it, so let's just go into one of the trials. Now, I know what you're thinking. Run invalidated? You just got rid of Great Fairy's Mask. That's one of the fairy rewards. Not clever. Alright, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the entire Majora fight as Deku. He's really weak, but like I said, 0th day gives him superpowers. So be careful who you call ugly in middle school. Haters say it's fake. Proved it. Proved I have great spin. So, this so-called superpower that Deku Link has that I haven't mentioned yet, the sword that he has on his B button is as powerful as the Great Fairy Sword. He has the strongest weapon in the game. So, let's crush this guy. What's that? Song of Time brought back Great Fairy Mask? Ooh, haters aren't gonna like that one. Okay, phase 1's done in 2 hits. Moving on. My sword is strong enough to kill this guy in 4 jump slashes. But watch this. That was so stylish that it was worth 2 jump slashes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, good run. That was Majora's Mask. All fair rewards, no human in dungeons. I hope you enjoyed. Now, because this was a tool-assisted run, the timing is from power on to last input. So I'll commentate all the way until the last input, which is just some random text box, and then after that I'll let the credits play. So let's see what kind of wacky, crazy stuff I'm gonna talk about. Final thoughts, I guess. This run, I had the idea for this over a year ago, actually, and I've been working on it on and off, but once it turned 2018, I've been working, like, every day. I've been working, I haven't put this much effort into any other video on my channel, or any channel. I don't know why I specified that, but yeah, I put a lot of effort into this, and it was entirely just a labor of love, just out of pure love of the game. I wanted to do this, and that having that hard deadline of February 21st, like, you gotta get this done, then, like, that worked well for me, because, like, I was able to perfectly pace getting everything situated. So what's next? I don't want to think about next year's February 21st. I want to take a nice break. But there are several projects that now I feel like I can work on. So it'll be nice to work on other things. I do have Majora's Mask videos coming down the pipeline. I'm gonna do some interesting things, so yeah, I'm never gonna stop playing this game. This is the one constant in my life. I really don't have anything left to say. I mean, I've been trying commentary for a pretty long time now, and I still can't really get into a groove for it. I feel like I've always had, like, a terrible mic, and don't really know what to say, but I wanted to do it anyway, especially for this run, just because, like, it was important for me to be able to at least try to illustrate some of the nuances that were in this route, so that more people could enjoy the solutions, even though they were kind of subtle. And as of right now, it's February 18th. This video will be public in less than 3 days. So it's gonna go out for the world to see. I don't really know if people are gonna like it or not. I hadn't really considered that. Like, I kind of just wanted to do this because 2 Paws, which I did. This is the 3-year anniversary of 2 Paws once this is uploaded. That was a very important run for me. Like, I wanted to do a proper follow-up, and this is it. And here is the end of the run. It's over. That was the last input. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna let the credits roll. Later.